Mix up some light blue, make sure it's got plenty of water in it. We're going to use this for some shading on the white parts of the penguin. Test on my test paper real quick to make sure I'm not too dark. I can get a single piece. That's about what I want right there, nice light blue. So we're going to run a shadow that goes down the left side of our little belly on our penguin, and then we're going to cast a shadow that comes off the left side and underneath the scarf right here, and then a little bit underneath this scarf right here. So to do that, before I even put any paint on there, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a little water, and I'm not going to go against this line. I'm going to leave a little space between where I'm putting this water down and this line. I don't want this to be soaking wet, but I do want it to be damp. So I'm coming right down here across his lower part of his belly there, and just bringing it over towards the center a little bit. I won't go too far over. I'll get a little bit of light blue, and I'm going to come right down this. What I want is a soft edge on both edges of my paint. So I got a nice soft edge there. I've got a little bit of a rough edge on this side, so I'm just going to take some clear water and just go right back over it. And now that's softened up. I've got a little rough edge right there. Just take a little bit of water and soften that. And I see a little rough edge right down here at the bottom. Just going to take some water and soften that. I don't want any hard, straight edges on it. I want it all to look soft on this one. So when I hold that up, you see that it's just soft edges on the right and the left. I do want it to come a little closer to this edge over here, so I'm going to put a little more water down and reduce that gap a little bit. The gap I'm referring to is the gap between this and the belly right there. So today will be a lot easier than last time when we were going 100 miles an hour and trying to stay ahead of paint drying. This will be a lot more relaxed pace today. I think you'll enjoy it more. This is just shading that we're putting on there. That water line, when it dries, it'll go away, and this will be just a nice light blue, soft light blue going down the left side. If I get too far ahead of you, please let me know. Now we're going to do the same thing going underneath this scarf and under the left side and the bottom of the scarf here. So the first thing I'm going to do, because I want it to be soft, is below it. I'm not going to leave a gap between the scarf and the shadow, though. I'm going to paint it right to that line, but I do want to take a little water so that when it comes across here, it will be softened on this lower edge. Now I've got it ready. Now I'm going to come across. Got a nice soft edge on the bottom now. Like I say, with this one, it goes right to the line this time. So I do want a hard edge here because it's meeting another object, in this case the scarf. And soft on the bottom edge. I'm going to do the same thing, put a little water on this left side and across the bottom here before I put any paint down. Coming out here, just putting some clear water on it. Just soften that out as it comes out away from it. Now we got a nice little shadow going around that, and then there's just that one last little piece right here where the scarf comes across right here. So same thing, a little bit of water. I don't care if my shadow goes, I'm going to paint it and go right across the area that's going to be black, because it really doesn't matter, because I'm going to paint black over this part. Just want to make sure I have a shadow on there. Does anybody need more time with those shadows that was here the whole time? Okay, I'll give you just a second. Okay, one last place where it's white that needs a shadow is right under his beak right here. Zoom this in a little bit. Come just right under here with a little bit of clear water. Don't go down inside your scarf at all. Coming right up to the edge of the beak with that water out just a little ways. This is going to be a very small shadow, so I don't want to get too crazy with it. I don't want a lot of paint in my brush, so I'm getting some of the paint out of my brush like this before I put it on. And then I'll come in just a little too light, so I'm going to come back over it. Take it right down to the scarf. On the bottom end, I'm going to change this down here. I've got a little bit of space coming along the bottom right here. Bring this down so you can see what I'm doing. Right along in here between his legs. I want to darken that slightly. And I'm going to take it right to the edge of that little belly part between. Again, I'm going to get my paper so I don't get this too dark to start with and not too much water. Come right along here, just like that. Now I don't want it to have just that little dark spot like that, so I'm bringing some clear water in it now. I'm going to feather it out right into everything I've already painted. Okay, so now when you look at it, there's not like just a dark area there. It's dark gradually going light as it moves up. Just take a little clear water in here, lighten all that up. So now it went from being all white to there's quite a bit of blue on there, but if you stay with a light blue, you're fine. If your blue got dark, it's going to look weird on there. If your blue is dark, take a clear brush over it, take a paper towel and soak it up a little bit. Try to lighten it up so it's not too dark. And I lied to you, there is one more place that's light blue. I forgot about it, but we're going to take care of that right now. The last place that's light blue is actually the iris around the eye. Make sure I don't have too much paint. I want my blue to be slightly darker on this one, not much darker. But if I've got my original one, see that's just slightly darker than my original light blue right here. And I'm just going to carefully go around the eye. This is one of those times where you slow way down. Try to be accurate. If it goes slightly inside the pupil, that's not a big deal because, of course, the pupil will be painted black except for the highlight. But you want to try not to go outside the outer edge of your iris if you can help it. So when you finish, it looks like two little blue Cheerios on there. Oh, and I see I forgot. I totally lied to you on the light blue. There's a whole bunch more light blue we got to do. I completely forgot. We got the trim around the hat and the little ball on the end of the hat. We're going to have to do that. So we'll do this just like we did right here. Everything's going to be, it's going to be a repeat. Nice. Just take water to start with. And I got a little bit of blue in that water, so I'm going to actually soak that up and try that again. I want it to be clean. Rinse my brush out really good. Dripping water everywhere, having all kinds of fun here. All right. I'm going to come around here. Clear water, and then I'll come in here and put my light blue. In this case, I'm going to go right to the very edge. Not going to leave any space. And the reason I'm not worried about leaving any space at the edge is this wing will be black and it will offset and make that blue stand out and that white part stand out. So I don't need to have any contrasting reflected light there. Now if you're getting hard edges on the inside, make sure you're taking some water and softening it up on the inside edge of your shading. And also make sure you're not getting these ridiculously dark. This is not a dark blue. How many need more time on that little ball? Okay, don't see any hands, so we're going to move on. With the trim, I'm going to come along the top here. I'm just going to put a little water along the top. It doesn't matter whether it can go all the way down and touch the line below it if you want it to. It's all right. I just need to be soft along here. It's going to be go with a little tiny bit darker blue, not much. It's kind of an undercut right there. I'm checking my test paper here a little bit. Wasn't quite as dark as I wanted it, so I'm getting it just a little darker. Now I'll come right along this edge, coming right there on that line, right on the line. Bring it up slightly. So I want it about the width of my paintbrush. Come along there. It's a little bit of a hard edge, but I'm not going to worry too much about this one because it can be a little bit of a hard edge because it kind of folds under a little bit. You'll note that that is slightly darker than some of the other blue. Not much. I mean, it's very subtle. Then I'll put a little bit of light blue on the left side here. In fact, that's so light I want to actually make it a little bit darker. It's too light. Soften that edge. And then just as dark over here where the little thing on his stocking cap comes down, this is going to put a cast shadow right here. Too much water, so I'll just soak it up. Soften that edge. Now I'm pretty sure we're done with the blue. And guys, don't let me forget that we have to leave this class at 9:55. It's thrown off my game a little bit. So around 9:50, 10 minutes to 10, make sure somebody says something so we don't run over. We're going to change colors now. So now I'm going to come over here to my paint tray. And I'm going to get some red. it over here. Get a little water in it to lighten it up a little bit. Okay, and then in your paint tray, everybody look at the screen for a second. When I'm in my paint tray and I'm moving that around, there's still not a lot of water, but enough in there. It's kind of like a milk consistency. I want to make sure that my paint tray is wet, okay? Because, crap, that I did not want. I'll hide that later, but for now, we'll just try to get as much up as we can. So, it's all right if mistakes happen, especially if you know how to fix them later. So, I'll fix those later when we put some snowflakes in the background. I know where a couple of them are going to go now. We're going to cover up that red. To avoid that from happening again, move that over there. Hate it when stuff like that happens. Okay, we're going to use that light red that we mixed up just a second ago. And I'm going to paint the whole little top of this cap light red. Barring any more spills, hopefully it goes well. You'll want to go fairly fast on this because you want it to look even. You don't want to take little teeny short paintbrush strokes on this. You want to make them fairly long, cover as much area as you can. Make sure you're going right to the edge so you don't have little white gaps. Try and keep that as even as I can get it. And while that's still wet, I'm going to take and go just a little darker on this edge right here. I'm going to blend it off to the right. Okay, so now I'm coming in with just a little bit of water so I can feather it over. So now his little cap goes from dark to light, from the left side to the right side. And while it's a little bit wet, I'm going to come along here, put a little bit of water here because it's got a little dry on me. I'm also going to make this a little darker along this left side. And actually kind of where it bends right here a little bit. I've got kind of a hard edge right here, so a little water to feather it out. So my two darkest areas now are left side and the little tail end that comes down here, which fades lighter as it moves up. something I don't like, right here I've got a little gap. You see that little bit of white there? I've got two choices. I can go back and try to make up a blue-gray and fill that in, or I can make his hat just a little bigger. It's much easier just to make the hat a little bigger, so that's what I'm going to do. It's going to take a fairly dark red. I'm just going to come along this outer edge. Bring it up over the top. Feather it down. Now that little gap is all gone now. It's all filled in, looks like it should. Okay, I need a darker red now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some straight out of my tray, put it right here. I don't have much water, and I want this to be a dark red. It's really dark, looks like blood almost. Now I'm going to take just one little teeny dot of black, and I mean, when I say little, you can see it right on the end of my brush, right there, kind of, if this will focus. Get it to focus here. Barely any. I'm going to put that in there just to make it slightly darker. I'm looking at that and I'm going, nope, that's too dark, that's too black. So I'll just go back and get some more red. I want it to be red dominant, not black dominant. Now I got it more red, and I'm still going to put even a little bit more in there. And where this is going to go is underneath this fold right here. And that's why this has to be a little bit darker. So move my paints out of the way. Zoom in on this a little bit so you can see where I'm painting with this. I didn't worry about getting this too even right here because I knew it was going to cover it up. Come right along that edge. Come along the inside of that bend. Darkened all that up, and then I had a little bit of an overlap on the fold right there, so I'm going to just darken that. I don't want that hard edge to the inside, so of course I'm going to try to smooth this out with just a little bit of water and very lightly brushing over it. It's not quite done, but we're getting close on it. so I'm going to put a darker edge along this side of the fold here. I'm going to leave a little space between this hard shadow and the edge of this right here. Before I do anything though, I'm going to take just a little bit of water, come along here. I don't want it to get too hard to the outside edge. When I say hard, I mean the edge of it. I want it to stay soft. Now I'll get my darkest. Come right along there. Blend that right into the bottom. Coming right around the top. Fade that out. Now I look at it, and I want it to go just a little bit darker on this edge over here. Because now that I'm looking at it, I need to balance it out a little more. I feel like it's too light right there. I feel like this shadow's a little light, so I'm just bringing in just a little more dark. Getting some weird drawing right here, so I'm going to try to correct it. Now I'm pretty happy with that hat. Okay, right there. I'm continuing to monitor it and watch the drying a little bit. I don't want to get any hard edges in here anywhere. Kind of keeping an eye on it as it dries for a second. I know it's no fun to watch paint dry, but you kind of have to sometimes. And I'm going to take just a little bit of medium red down here on this scarf. We're going to clean it. Yeah, we'll clean it in about 3 or 4 minutes. Thank you. Okay, I'm getting over here in my paint tray. I'm getting kind of a medium red. I don't want this to be a super dark red. Get a medium red mixed up here. Then I'm going to come over here, right along this scarf, and I'm going to paint a medium red right along the bottom here. right at the top of where those little cuts are. Frame that all in. Try to make that as even as I can going across the bottom. Then I'm going to skip a little spot and do the same thing. Another little stripe coming across. About the same width or similar. I'm going to call that good on that scarf. I'm not going to put any more color there. We're going to paint that green eventually, some of it, but we'll leave that red part there. Looking for any little light spots I might have missed, like that one. Making sure I went clear to the edge. Didn't come up short. And the last thing we're going to do on the penguin itself will be the black, because that's the darkest color, but we still got feet and a beak to do before we worry about that, and the whole scarf to do. So if you have your penguin to that point of completion, the hat's done, the red on the scarf's done, you got all your shadows laid in here. If you are that far, then go ahead and clean up. But don't clean up until you're that far so that we all start on the same page, so to speak, on Wednesday. You guys almost got to hear me cuss in class. That made me mad. Oh, we didn't.